Partridge directs Birthright, a 2025 folk horror movie that is kind of based on the birthing cycle. Okay, so Rite is spelt R-I-T-E, by the way, just to kind of clarify that. So the story focuses on a lesbian couple that moved to a kind of small town where one of the women has inherited a house from an aunt that she really didn't know even existed. And it's a kind of small, tight-knit community, and this particular woman is pregnant. But she has complications, and looks like she's lost the baby, but there seems to be some disparity because the the hospital are sort of saying there was no baby, it was kind of like a phantom pregnancy, but her midwife is saying there was a baby and things like this. There also seems to be a bit of a mystery about what's actually been going on in this kind of small town, about the kind of her family and her past, and this kind of pact with the devil, so to speak, that may have been made by relatives of this woman, involving kind of sacrificial rites and children sacrifice and things like this, and it has affected other people of the town. But it seems to have now decided to follow this particular couple. What will happen? You will have to watch the movie and find out. Sound a little vague, obviously. I don't want to give spoilers here for you, so that is why. Because the crux of this movie is kind of a mystery. What's actually kind of going on? And as the movie goes through its runtime, various kind of reveals will be made, and kind of you'll learn more about what's actually kind of happened, who's involved and why. So let's talk about what works. I do think the acting is fairly strong in this movie. It is a very dialogue-based movie with not a lot of actual things happening on screen, so to speak. You'll get the odd bit here and there, but for the most part, the bulk of the movie is carried by its actors, and I think the actors do a good job here. I think they're believable in their roles, and you know, I think it's their characters that you can kind of root for. One aspect that I did like as well, and it's only a small thing, and I wish they'd actually expanded upon it more, but you have this kind of like this gay couple, and you know, it's never, they're never getting any hassle from anyone about that. It's just one of these things. And even to the point where one of these women, Maya, who is the one that isn't pregnant, she actually kind of strikes up a bit of a friendship with this kind of local man who looks like he's going to be like a hillbilly type, but they actually seem to kind of get on quite well. And he actually is one of the people that starts to maybe reveal there might be shenanigans kind of going on. And, you know, I quite liked it. I thought, do you know what, that's so sort of like against typically what you sort of see in these type of films. I actually kind of quite liked it. And that sort of, they're just chit chat. Again, it was just some nice little character moments here that I thought was quite appreciative. He doesn't have a huge role in the movie, and you know, draw your own conclusions as to why. But yeah, there's a few aspects here. There's another guy called Quentin who kind of befriends the other woman, and again, these just kind of little touches of like just humanness, I thought was quite good, and kind of grounded this level in the movie in this kind of like in this way, that made it feel very kind of relatable in some ways. So I kind of appreciated this. Now, as the film goes on, you will learn more about what's actually kind of happened, and the kind of the pact, so to speak, of what it involves. And I think the movie does a good job of kind of spacing out kind of like these reveals through the movie, so you'll learn as the characters do more or less about what's actually sort of going on. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to kind of figure out the broad strokes about, you know, these kind of things, but nonetheless, you know, it was still, I think, it kind of spaces out its reveals to make the movie, you know, have these kind of moments of little clarity as the kind of the film goes on. So you get these little nuggets through the film and things like that. And, you know, when you think about it, you know, it has this kind of a little bit of a kind of a creepier edge, a kind of disturbing idea here about, you know, what people might do and things like this. And then you have this kind of like this folk horror kind of aesthetic going along. So I do think it has a little bit of a creepy atmosphere. What doesn't work, I think the movie is a little bit too much on the kind of the slow side, I think, for some. Because the movie is so dialogue based, it's not exactly a visual treat for the eyes. You know, the most explicit thing you're going to see is someone in a hood with kind of antlers, and that's basically the effect of the most exciting thing you're going to see on screen in regards to visual panache. It's filmed in a kind of serviceable way, but it's never really a explicitly exciting film visually, if that makes sense. It's very kind of like just sort of run-of-the-mill in regards to sort of somewhat of a melodramatic kind of horror movie. And I do think the pacing of it, because it is so dialogue heavy, does slow down a little bit too much at times and ultimately makes the movie a little dull at times. I think the ending is unsatisfying, or it will be for some at the very least, and I don't know if it fully crossed the T's and dotted the I's to my satisfaction in regards to really kind of explaining the psychology of that sort of what's happened and things. There are also some elements here that I just thought were missed opportunities, and it set some good things up and then didn't do a lot with them. For example, I've mentioned the character of Maya, and she has she kind of gets this friendship with this guy that she meets just in the bar. Now this guy, something happens to him, and our characters never mention it again. And he was on the way back from their house when something happens, and I'm thinking, well, surely this would be mentioned. Surely this would come up in conversation. No, you know, it just seems like, yeah, we've set up a kind of quite good and quite unique sort of like little relationship here, and then we'll just kind of squander it, and then we won't even talk about it again. I also think, and I might have got this wrong, forgive me if I've missed something here, but because we have a lesbian couple, and so one of the kind of the women is initially pregnant, and then she loses the baby. Was it real or was it not? But it's never discussed about the other one getting pregnant. Do you know what I mean? And maybe this is the thing, that a bit of dialogue that I've missed. But I think, well, why isn't, because you have this unique relationship where there's two women, obviously either one of them can get pregnant, and why is it never discussed the other one should try? You know, to me, again, maybe it was discussed and it was a brief bit of dialogue, but if it was, I've missed it. Overall, to be honest with you, it's an okay movie, but it's nothing special. It's very much a kind of like a dialogue-driven folk horror about kind of like spooky pregnancies and child sacrifices, but it really doesn't have much in the kind of bang for your buck kind of department. And I do think ultimately it just ends up becoming a bit of a sort of one you're not going to remember. It's okay, but it's just not particularly kind of exciting or memorable in any particular way. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Please do leave me your thoughts, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.